Hey there, my name is Chauncey Friend, and I'm the innovator behind cy.PIPES, and I'm out here in my literal garage. This is my garage startup company. And I want to give you an overview on what's included in a cy.PIPES beta test kit and what you can expect. A little background, so I've been innovating in terms of the design of the hardware and software of cy.PIPES and actually using it with users. My day job is at Indiana University here in Indianapolis, and we've been using it in a research tech lab where we actually build experiments in virtual reality and then build out 4D installations, and I'll talk more about that later. So in a in a cy.PIPES beta test kit, you're going to get, of course, a cy.PIPES unit itself. So this is the hardware here. In batch 1 of manufacturing, I've made 20 of these, so I'm only going to release 20 for this first round of beta testing in 2018. I probably won't build too many more this year. And there's a lot of new interesting features I'm designing for the next generation of this, but they're not ready to come out yet. Fuses will come along, so every outlet is fuse protected, as well as the main power inlet here. That's just because I know programmers aren't necessarily electricians, don't know exactly if they should hook up things that draw more current than others. But the way to think about cy.PIPES is really simple. So if you've got a Unity project, the whole idea is you extend your Unity project. Okay, so we build virtual worlds that look pretty realistic. What if you could feel those environments? That's the idea. So one of the first easy steps to get that working is air movement using fans. So with these outlets, you could hook up, up to 6 different fans and place them around your VR track space. I've got a range of fans behind me here. So I've got sort of small, low-speed fans to small, high-speed fans to just kind of average like office fan here to maybe more of an industrial air circulator. That's what's kind of nice about cy.PIPES is that you can kind of mix and match. You could actually hook up all of these if you wanted just different ranges, or you could find a whole bunch of the same type and then space them around your track space. And your track space could be seated, it could be standing. I've done both, and there are different ways of going about it. You could even not limit yourself to just wind. I mean, these are just simply electronic outlets that are synchronized from your Unity code. You could hook up heat lamps. So I've done this with different types of heat emitters, heat lamps to get heat. So one of the example project that I'll give you in the beta test program is a Unity project I made that's a hot air balloon experience. So that one is designed so that when you put the handset up and you pull the trigger, you have a heat lamp somewhere near your user in the middle of the track space, and you'll literally feel the heat on your hand and see the flames in VR on the blast valve of the hot air balloon. So that way you can kind of go through that project and make it your own and tweak it. You could even go ahead and mess with it so that you can kind of understand how I think about adding effects. And the Unity plugin itself is an open source project on GitHub. So if you wanted to contribute because you figured out a better way to control effects, that's fine. But I'm always open to suggestions. That's the whole point of the beta test program. So other more advanced uses of cy.PIPES include, like, one time we actually set up an exhibit around, like a seated exhibit for an ancient Roman palace reconstruction. So a professor came to me and had a data set that he had made of this old palace from like the year 138. And we built like a field trip where you would go through this, but at some point you wanted to see and smell the food. Okay, so over here you can see I've got this kind of array. You can come on over here. Array of gadgets just strewn all over the place. And really what I've got here is industrial solenoid valves. I found these literally on a resale website on the internet. And then here's a airbrush compressor that you can just buy at the hardware store. This was like $30. These were I think like $50. And then this is aquarium tubing. And I hooked up a manifold system with PVC and aquarium tubing, and I was using, for the smell of food, liquid smoke, malt vinegar, aromatherapy type things for the dessert smells. And just, I'll tell you what, just the corroboration when a person's in VR and they see something, like say a nice smoked turkey come up to their face and they smell, and all of a sudden it actually smells like a smoked turkey. It's like bigger than the sum of their parts. And people don't just get excited about the novelty, but it actually is really immersive. Another way I'm experimenting around with doing smell is, if I'm simply actuating with just an outlet, I've got this thing I found on Amazon. I'll pick this up here so you can see it. So this is sort of an interesting little gadget that I found on Amazon. That's called an ultrasonic mister, and there are 8 wafers here that are ultrasonic wafers, and when you submerge this in water and actually provide voltage to it, so say for instance in cy.PIPES, say I was providing an actual effect to this, and you could also use this for humidity, it goes ahead and actually starts generating water vapor like very quickly, okay? So you can actually generate humidity that your users would feel, or you could take this, and I've actually started working on this recently where you use like ducting. If you have a location-based arcade and you're wanting to really push the envelope and make yourself unique amongst other VR arcades, this might be the avenue to go down. So like with that effect, I'm actually going to duct some of that water vapor that's scented into different areas of the track space. If you have a static virtual environment, say you're in a house, and you have a window over here that's got maybe like flowers, you could duct over to that spot a steady effect of smell, so that when your user walks in the track space over to that area, they see out the window and they actually smell the correct smell, versus over here maybe they walk and there's a campfire or a fireplace, and you actually smell the smell of the fireplace and feel the heat coming from that. With the hardware, let me kind of go over that real quick with you. So the way to think about this again is 8 fuse protected outlets. There's indicator LEDs that are super bright on there, so you'll see them when they light up for debugging purposes. Every unit has a serial number and a name, a unique serial number and a unique name. I etched that into the plastic on the top with a laser etching system. On the front here we have the network address. This is where Unity talks to cy.PIPES. So it's running a Linux operating system on the inside, and basically network packets come in, the firmware routes those to, in the circuitry, control these outlets, or actually communicate out through the USB ports into maybe other more advanced effects. But that's too much information for right now. I could talk about it in a later video. Here we have a Wi-Fi adapter, okay? This is just a simple USB Wi-Fi adapter you'd find on an everyday computer. But what it's used for is if Pipes for some reason has a problem with your network, it's not receiving packets, and you need to troubleshoot it, you can actually press this button, and when it's plugged in, it will start hosting. If it's plugged in, it'll start hosting an access point or a hotspot from that Wi-Fi access point. This is the I/O button to turn it on and off when it's plugged in, and below we have an access port for the firmware. Okay, so this is actually a micro SD card inside. Here on the sides we have, if I flip it this way, these little, if you can get close to there, you see those little slots? They're angled perfectly in a way where you could put Velcro strapping through those, or zip ties, and you can hang this on your truss, on your VR rig, maybe behind a wall or something, and that way your power cable dangles down this way, and this thing is mounted securely. So, I've come up with just little design tweaks like that just make this that much better, and I'm always open to new suggestions. So keep an eye on more and more tutorials and more examples as we go along. There already are tutorials and examples on the GitHub repo right now. So last thing I'm going to do is give you a couple more examples of how I've used cy.PIPES. So lately I've been doing a lot with therapy-based things. So I partnered with a doctor who wanted to actually take cy.PIPES as an exhibit to the hospital. And what we did was we built a nature exhibit so that patients that are in the ICU or critical care, who may have been there for weeks to months healing, who are just basically staring at ceiling tiles all day and all night because they're hardly getting any sleep because they're just in pain. So this is an unfortunate occurrence, so we thought maybe let's use VR to stimulate their mind and also kind of sidetrack them from the delirium that they experience. So cy.PIPES actually in that case provided wind direction. In a Vive, we actually made them look like they were on a trolley in nature. It was a really rich, rewarding experience, and we're continuing that work. So the next example I want to talk about is for training for folks who work in the field. I work with folks that do things like alternative energy, where you would want to build a VR simulator so that an engineer who has to work in the field would actually feel the sensations that happen on a wind turbine when you're up working on it, all the way to a person maybe training for firefighting experiences that are not common. Like a burn building, they have training. Like you can go find firefighting training buildings where they have real fire, propane fire, and you fight the fire. But what if you want to train a person for a fire on a train or in a subway or firefighting in a crawl space? It's a little bit harder to always have every scenario. So VR kind of provides that. And by using cy.PIPES, you can actually make the sensations of high BTU heat, hot doorknob, the smell, all more realistic, so that the person's mind engages with the actual simulation. Here pretty soon, I actually do have an appointment to take cy.PIPES to a retirement home. And the whole idea here is literally stimulation and excitement, to take the hot air balloon experience and let my grandma and her friends and some other senior citizens try out the ability to go up in a hot air balloon, something they wouldn't probably do in their 90s and 80s. So that'll be exciting to watch and get a little bit of feedback from them. I'm a little bit curious to see, since they're kind of from the greatest generation, to see if they just kind of reject the technology outright because it's new, but we'll see what happens there. Keep in mind, the way I view VR is that it's an illusion for your entire body, okay? So when you build VR that needs to be realistic, it's important to provide illusion for your entire body so your brain has corroboration that it actually is in this simulated environment that it's seeing. And that doesn't mean just rich visuals and audio, surround and spatial audio. That means concerning other things that are in that environment too. Wind, heat, smell. So that's why I built cy.PIPES. It's a way for you to build a more rich display that's like hyper immersive. VR now is basically so accessible that doing 4D effects with VR almost has to happen because users are going to start expecting it as the visuals get more and more realistic. So thank you for watching, and you can contact me at cfrend at CYUTIL.io, or you can go to CYUTIL.io to see more information, or connect to the Facebook page or on the GitHub repo. So those are the most active locations on the internet that I'm on. So thanks.